The bus was late, as always, and the station smelled like wet concrete and old metal. People stood in loose lines that didn't really mean anything, everyone pretending there was order when there wasn't. Malik adjusted the strap of his worn backpack and checked his phone. No new messages. He already knew there wouldn't be when you stop expecting replies. Disappointment loses its sharpness and becomes dull, like background noise. He chose the seat near the window, halfway down the bus. It was a habit. Window seats gave him something to look at when he didn't want to look at people. Outside, the city passed by in fragments. Cracked sidewalks, tired shops, murals half faded by sun and time. He liked the murals most. They tried to say something, even if no one listened. At the third stop, a woman boarded with a child clinging to her coat. She scanned the bus, hesitated, then sat across from Malik. The child stared at him openly, curiosity unfiltered. Malik offered a small smile. The child didn't smile back, but didn't look away either. 2 stops later, the man got on. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with a voice that filled space before his body did. Stood in the aisle, eyes sweeping the seats, then fixed on Malik. "Hey," he said. "That seat's taken." Malik looked up. "I've been sitting here since Central." The man scoffed. "Yeah, well, my friend's coming." "There are empty seats," Malik replied calmly, gesturing with his chin. The man's eyes hardened. "You deaf or something? I said that seat's taken." The bus quieted, like it always did when tension entered the room. Conversations paused. Phones lowered just a little. People pretended not to notice while noticing everything. Malik felt the familiar heat rise in his chest. He had lived this scene in different locations, with different faces, but the same script. He could predict the lines before they were spoken. "I'm not moving," Malik said. The man laughed, sharp and humorless. "Figures. What's that supposed to mean?" Malik asked. "You know exactly what it means." The word hung there, unspoken, but loud. The driver cleared his throat. "Sir, take a seat, or step off the bus." The man stared at Malik for another second, then turned away, muttering something under his breath as he dropped into a seat near the back. "Sir." The bus exhaled, tension dissolving into relief that wasn't quite relief, more like avoidance. Malik's hands trembled slightly. He pressed them together until they steadied. Across from him, the woman watched him with an expression that was half sympathy, half fear. The child finally looked away. At his stop, Malik got off and walked the 3 blocks to the community center. The building was old but sturdy, brick walls layered with history. He volunteered there 3 evenings a week, helping kids with homework, teaching basic coding when the computers worked, listening when they needed someone to listen. Inside, the air smelled like coffee and dust. Laughter echoed from the back room. Malik smiled despite himself. "Yo, Malik," Jamel called. "You're late." "Bus drama," Malik said, hanging his jacket. Jamal raised an eyebrow. "The usual. The usual." Jamal nodded, understanding without needing details. They had both learned young that some stories didn't need retelling to be real. Thick night. After the kids left and the center quieted, Malik sat alone at one of the long tables. He opened his laptop and stared at the blank document. He had been meaning to write. Not a story, something else. A record. Proof. Words had power if you put them together right. He believed that even when it felt naive. He typed a single sentence. "Today, a man tried to take my seat. He stared at it for a long time, then closed the laptop." Outside, sirens wailed in the distance. The video surfaced 2 days later. Shaky, poorly framed, filmed from the back of the bus. The angle caught Malik's profile, the man standing over him, the tension obvious even without sound. Someone had added captions. "Refused to move. Started argument. Playing victim." The comments were worse. Malik saw it because Jamal sent the link with a single message. "You okay?" "Okay." The video had already crossed 1 million views. At first, Malik felt detached, like he was watching someone else's life unravel. Strangers analyzed his posture, his tone, his face. They decided who he was in seconds. He looks aggressive. Why didn't he just move? Always causing problems. There were other comments too. Quieter, but there. He did nothing wrong. This happens all the time. People deserve to sit where they want. But outrage traveled faster than empathy. The next morning, Malik's supervisor called him into the office. "Malik," she said gently, folding her hands. "I need to ask you something." He already knew. "Is that you in the video?" "Yes," she sighed. "The board is concerned." "Concerned about what?" "Public perception." Malik laughed once, a short, incredulous sound. "So I'm a perception now." She winced. "You know what I mean?" "I do," Malik said. "I just hoped you wouldn't say it." He was suspended pending review. Unpaid. When he left the building, the murals across the street looked different. Still colorful, still bold, but somehow more fragile. The trial came later, sparked by something small that grew teeth. The man from the bus filed a complaint, claiming Malik had threatened him. No evidence, just his word. But his word carried weight. Malik's carried suspicion. Courtrooms were cold places. Malik learned cold in temperature, colder in tone. Everything was reduced to facts that weren't facts, and narratives shaped by who spoke them. The prosecutor painted Malik as defiant, confrontational. The defense tried to humanize him, but humanity was a harder sell than fear. Witnesses testified. The woman from the bus spoke, voice shaking. "He didn't do anything," she said. "He just sat there." The man took the stand, confident. "He looked at me like he wanted trouble." "Looked at you? How?" the defense asked. "Cho. You know," the man said, smirking slightly. The judge frowned but said nothing. Sighs. When the verdict came back, not guilty, there was no celebration. Malik felt relief, yes, but also exhaustion. Acquittal didn't undo damage. It didn't erase the video, the comments, the suspension. Outside the courthouse, reporters shouted questions. "Do you feel vindicated? Any message for your supporters? Do you think race played a role?" Malik stopped, turned. "Yes," he said. "Race played a role. It always does, too. The question isn't whether it exists. It's whether we're brave enough to admit it." The clip of that answer went viral too. This time, the comments shifted. Some apologized. Some doubled down. Some argued with each other, using Malik's face as a battlefield. He went home and finally opened the laptop again. He wrote 4 hours. The article published on a small independent site. No flashy headline. Just truth, laid out carefully, patiently. Malik didn't attack. He explained. He described the bus, the seat, the silence of bystanders. He wrote about exhaustion, about the cost of always being calm, always being the bigger person. People shared it. Slowly at first, then faster. Teachers discussed it in classrooms. Community groups invited Malik to speak. He said yes to some, no to others. He was learning to protect his energy. At one event, a teenager approached him after his talk. "They did that to my dad," the kid said quietly. Different place, same story. Malik nodded. "I know. What do we do?" the kid asked. Malik thought for a long moment. "We keep telling the truth," he said. "Even when they don't want to hear it." Months later, Malik rode the bus again. Same route. Different day. He took the window seat. A man boarded, glanced at him, then looked away. Load side. A new mural covered the old one. Bright colors. A face looking forward, unafraid. Malik smiled. Malik thought the noise would fade with time. That the arguments, the opinions, the strangers speaking his name like, they knew him would eventually dissolve into the endless churn of the internet. Some of it did. Trends moved on. New outrage replaced old outrage. But a residue remained, clinging to his days in small, unexpected ways. At the grocery store, a woman stared a little too long. then whispered to her friend. At the library, a man approached him, hesitated, then asked, "You're that guy, right?" Malik nodded, unsure what response was expected. Sometimes the recognition came with gratitude, sometimes with suspicion, sometimes with nothing at all, except curiosity sharpened by distance. He learned to live inside that ambiguity. The community center eventually lifted his suspension, quietly, without apology. The board released a short statement about misunderstandings and moving forward. Malik returned on his first evening back to a room full of kids who acted like nothing had changed, which was both comforting and painful to them. He was still just Malik, the guy who helped with math, who explained things twice without getting annoyed, who listened. That night, one of the kids asked, "Why were you on TV?" Malik paused. "Because I sat down somewhere people thought I shouldn't." The kid frowned. "That's stupid." Malik smiled. "Yeah, it kind of is." As weeks passed, invitations kept coming. Podcasts, panels, interviews. Malik declined most of them. He was interested in becoming a symbol that other people could use when it suited them and discard when it didn't. But one request stayed with him. A bus drivers' union wanted him to speak. At first, Malik almost said no. The irony felt heavy. But then he imagined rooms full of people who saw these moments every day, who were positioned at the center of conflict and expected to keep moving, regardless of what unfolded behind them. So he said yes. The meeting took place in a modest hall that smelled faintly of oil and coffee. The audience was mixed drivers, young and old, men and women, different backgrounds, united by long hours and tired eyes. Volk stood at the front, hands loosely clasped, and told the story again. Not the viral version, the human one. He talked about the silence, the way tension spreads when no one wants to be the first to intervene. He didn't accuse. He described. When he finished, a driver in the front row raised her hand. "I see this kind of thing all the time," she said. "And half the time, I don't know what the right call is." Malik nodded. "Neither did I," he said. "But doing nothing also sends a message." After the talk, several drivers approached him. One shook his hand. Another said quietly, "I wish I'd handled a situation like that better." Once, Malik listened. He didn't offer absolution. He offered understanding. That night, he walked home instead of taking the bus. The city felt different on foot. Slower. More honest. He passed the mural again to face, staring forward, fearless. Someone had added words beneath it in neat white paint. "You belong here." Malik stopped and looked at it for a long time. The message Malik wrote continued to travel, reshaped by each reader who shared it. In some places, it sparked real conversations. In others, it was used as ammunition, stripped of context and empathy. Malik learned that once a story leaves your hands, you don't control what it becomes. One evening, an email landed in his inbox from someone named Aaron. "I was on that bus," it read. "I didn't say anything. I should have. I think about it more than you probably expect." Malik stared at the screen. He'd imagined bystanders as a faceless group, easier that way. Seeing one step forward unsettled him. He replied after a while. "Thank you for saying that. Silence feels safer in the moment." "It just gets heavier later," Aaron wrote back. They exchanged a few messages, careful and honest. No grand reconciliation. Just two people acknowledging a shared moment from opposite sides of fear. That exchange stayed with Malik longer than most of the praise or criticism. Change, he realized, often arrived quietly. A year after the bus incident, Malik stood in a classroom at a local university. He wasn't there as a guest speaker this time. He was a student. He had enrolled in a part-time program for social policy, something he'd considered for years but never felt ready to pursue. Now felt like the right moment not because he was confident, but because he was tired of standing still. On the first day, the professor asked why they had chosen the course. When it was Malik's turn, he said simply, "Because I've seen how systems fail people in ordinary moments." The professor nodded, eyes thoughtful. Between classes, Malik still volunteered. Still wrote, though less urgently. Writing had shifted from survival to intention. He worked on longer pieces now, exploring not just what happened to him, but why similar stories kept repeating everywhere. Sometimes, doubt crept in late at night. He wondered if any of it mattered. If words could actually move structures built on years of imbalance, then something small would happen. A message from a reader. A kid at the center standing up for someone else. A driver intervening sooner than before. Not solutions. Signals. On another bus ride, much later, Malik noticed a young man standing near the door, gripping the pole tightly. Two passengers were whispering, glancing at him, their expressions sharp with judgment. Malik felt the familiar tension rise, not in fear this time, but recognition. Before he could overthink it, Malik spoke. "Hey," he said casually, loud enough to cut through the quiet. "You want to sit? I'm getting off in 2 stops." The young man looked surprised. "Oh, yeah. Thanks." The whisper stopped. The moment dissolved. Malik stepped off the bus shortly after, heart pounding harder than the situation seemed to warrant. He laughed softly to himself. Courage, he realized, wasn't always dramatic. Sometimes it was just interrupting a pattern. As the bus pulled away, Malik caught his reflection in the glass. Older, a little more tired, but steadier. Hugh walked on, past the murals, past the noise, carrying his seat with him wherever he went.